You ready? You got me running, you got me running, got me running. Shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it. Raise your hands up, raise them out.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome. It is Friday, the 29th of October, and this is the Daily Currency Call with Forex Trading Asia. Thanks for joining us again, and welcome to anyone that is new as well. It is episode 407, and a quick introduction as well. So this is the Currency Call that is run every Monday to Friday, and the currencies we analyze are as follows. So from 11 a.m. GMT +8, we discuss on Mondays, the Aussie and Kiwi, Tuesday, the Euro, Wednesday, the Pound, Thursday, Yen and Gold, and then on Friday, today we're doing CAD and cryptocurrency. Now, this is the currency call where you'll get the market economic updates, the key support and resistance levels, trade ideas, and of course, much more. This currency call is going to be very beneficial to both the long-term investors and the short-term traders. And here we will go through what could move the price of the particular currency in focus, possible trade ideas, and we'll highlight the potential targets and risks as well. A disclaimer is that any information shared during this session is not intended to be a trade recommendation. It is solely the opinion and views of the speaker. So please remember to do your own analysis prior to entering any trades. And I see Jen and we both have the Forex, and I would just like to say that last night was a pretty big session last night. It was over 1% for the Forex briefcase investors, and we've barely started the new trading month. So what to everyone that is invested as well. Did I get that? Was that sort of close?
Almost. You just need a bit more energy in it.
It was a little. I went for a run this morning, everyone. That was a terrible idea. But to start off, guys, we do have Kim Hong, currency strategist at LCMS Traders, and he'll be discussing what happened yesterday with the ECB and also with the BOJ monetary policy statements as well. So over to you now, Kim Hong.
Okay, happy Friday, everyone. Okay, so Bank of Japan. Yeah, Jin pretty much said it yesterday, no change has been made to monetary policy. Okay, interest rates remains at negative 0.1%. Yeah, that's almost pretty much it. Okay, except I would like to add on one more point, and that is the quarterly economic projection. So what you're looking at right now is like what I mentioned, quarterly economic projections released by the Bank of Japan. Okay, so if we were to scroll all the way, by the way, I'll be sharing this link later on with you guys. All right, so in case you guys want to check out the data, then you guys can do so. So, okay, just coming all the way down to page 9 under the appendix. Okay, we can see that, there's this column for GDP, there's this column for inflation. So the main point that I want to highlight here is this, okay? Forecast made in July 2021, okay, for CPI was a range from 0.3 to 0.6, okay, and then the figure in this bracket is 0.6, okay, it's actually the median projection, all right. So the most recent projection has been revised downwards, okay, to 0 to 0.2%, and as you can see, the median figure has also been revised down, to 0. All right, so not very good, personally, I would say, okay, because as you guys know, inflation has been rising across many countries around the world, but not in the case for Japan. All right, and this brings me to the next point, which is in case you guys are wondering why the Japanese monetary policy, the Bank of Japan's monetary policy decision doesn't really have much impact on the Japanese yen in terms of price movements, okay, that is the reason why, okay. The Bank of Japan actually targets inflation to be, well, the targeted inflation is 2%, all right, 2 to 3%. And, as you can see, for the past, I don't have the data with me right now, but if you guys were to look at the previous year's data for Japanese CPI figures, okay, it's easily below 2, okay, maybe even below 1, all right? And right now, when countries like United States, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, even the Eurozone, okay, are actually increasing their projections for inflation, here we have the Japanese, okay, actually revising their projections downwards. So it's not, I would say, not aligned with what the other countries are doing, okay, what the other major central banks out there are doing, all right? So this explains why, monetary policy decisions nowadays under the Bank of Japan is not having any impact at all, okay, pretty much not any impact, because the minimum requirement to actually cause some movement, which is CPI to be 2%, is not met, okay, not met, but it's even way further away from, the 2% target, all right? So in times like this, we see inflation rising, but not in Japan, which is why, pretty much no movements for the Japanese yen when it comes to the BOJ's meeting, all right? So that's pretty much it for the Bank of Japan, okay? Moving on to the European Central Bank, okay? Well, yesterday, the European Central Bank, okay, held monetary policy unchanged, okay? Interest rate remains the same at 0, 0.25, and negative 0.5 for the 3 different rates. For the 3 different rates, okay? So the thing is, with this rise in inflation, okay, I think I've mentioned several times already, the Eurozone inflation has risen to a 13-year high of 3.4%, okay? Even with this strong rise of inflation in the Eurozone area, okay, the ECB, okay, the ECB still downplayed the chance of a rate hike taking place in 2022, okay? So recently there has been market speculation that the ECB may, okay, actually be increasing interest rates in 2022, okay? Because remember that recently they actually did some amendments, okay, to their inflation policy, okay? So right now they are actually targeting 2%, all right, with a short period of undershooting or overshooting from the target, right? Being acceptable. But we have seen from the past few months, inflation data just keep making, just breaking higher and higher and higher, multi-year high levels, okay? So the market was actually expecting the, central bank to actually do something, all right, next year in the form of rate hikes, okay, in order to curb the ever-rising inflation, okay? So yesterday, Christine Lagarde actually made it clear, all right? She said that the whole ECB, okay, all the committee members actually, based on their analysis, okay, an interest rate hike in 2022 is very, very, very unlikely, all right? So she downplayed it, all right? Okay, so that's one point. I think one of the reporters actually prompted Lagarde on this question, on this rate hike question, right? So I think she responded something like, our analysis certainly does not support the condition of our forward guidance. Are satisfied at this time of lift-off meaning increasing interest rates, okay, as expected by markets, nor anytime soon thereafter. So yeah, for the time being, we are probably not going to see any hike in interest rates from the European Central Bank, okay? So interest rate wise, we are not going to see any changes, okay, fine. Then, we just take a look at quantitative easing, okay? So let me just show you guys the statement. Okay, so this is the monetary policy decision, monetary rate statement by the ECB, all right? So as you can see, this line over here, the Governing Council continues to judge that favorable financing conditions can be maintained with a moderately lower pace of net asset purchases under the PEPP than in the second and third quarters of this year. Okay, this statement is still there, all right? It actually came into the statement since the previous meeting. Okay, and the initial interpretation of this statement is that, wow, good, the European Central Bank has just carried out a tapering of quantitative easing, right? I mean, moderately lower pace of net asset purchase, right? So it is obviously they're slowing down the purchases of bonds and things like that, all right, under the PEPP program. So, however, all right, despite this whole slowing down of pace, Christine Lagarde actually mentioned that this is not a tapering. This is merely a policy recalibration. All right. So yesterday, I remember when I was listening to the press conference, I was actually waiting for someone, one reporter to actually ask, to prompt the same question of whether, this whole slowing down of asset purchase, is it considered tapering? So yeah, someone did ask, during the early part of the press conference, and as usual, Lagarde actually replied saying that no, it's just a calibration of the monetary policy. All right. So I'm not sure how long the market is going to buy this this line, this recalibration term for. Okay, but as much as QE goes, yeah, that's what we have from the ECB as of now. Okay, so as you guys probably already know, the PEPP will actually end in March 2022. All right, and yeah, I think someone actually asked about what's the plan after PEPP, but then, well, we have to wait for December's meeting. Okay, as mentioned during the previous session. Okay, for any plans of PEPP, or maybe any plans after the PEPP ends in March 2022. And I think Lagarde actually, specifically mentioned that the PEPP will end in 2022, March 2022. Okay, so yeah, we just probably have to wait till the December's meeting to listen to any new plans or any new arrangements. Okay, yeah. So as of now, nothing much. No quarterly economic projections was released yesterday. Okay, so it will be released during the next meeting, which will be held on 2nd of December. Okay, so I think the meeting next time around will be more interesting, to be honest. Okay, because we will get to listen to the central bank's plan on what's next after the PEPP ends in March. All right, that's the first thing. Second thing being the quarterly economic projections that will be released. Okay, so it'll be interesting to see if the central bank will be making any revision to their inflation projections. Okay, because for the past, I think once or twice, okay, the central bank has actually revised upwards their inflation expectation. Okay, which is why the market was expecting, are starting to speculate that the central bank will hike interest rates next year in order to curb inflation. All right. So with that, I've come to the end of my sharing. Any questions? Calibration. Yeah, calibration. Previously it was forward guidance, correct? Okay, no questions. All right. So with that, I'll hand it back to Scott.
Thanks, Kim, as well. And again, guys, with the poll that was just taken as well, for those that aren't with Forex Briefcase, there's the link there for the managed account service as well. Again, very strong returns for very low drawdown as well. So something really worth just getting on. There's a track record on the website as well, but we've returned over 102% now in 38 months. And welcome back, Roy, as well. Good to see you again. And so, guys, just to get into the next segment of the call as well, I will go into what happened with the US dollar index. And there is a little bit to talk about here as well. So, and we will be going through crypto at the end of the call. So in regards to the US dollar, so we did talk about yesterday, and that was put up on YouTube as well, and we share it around. We did talk about it's going to be very difficult for the US dollar to get through 94, which is what I've highlighted just with that red line here. If we go down to the 1 hour, you can see really the significance there. And we did talk about GDP, really with everything that's been going on with the supply chain issues and et cetera, in regards to labor force and COVID issues that are still present in the US. In fact, Australia recently overtook the US in vaccinations, and it's obviously showing because there's still a lot of cases over there. Now, we did see an aggressive pullback below 93.50. Jin mentioned the 93.30 as well. And we did see some big moves on the euro as well, even though, and with what Kim Hong just mentioned with the ECB, very subtle language. There was nothing really spectacular there in regards to a hawkish tone. And we really saw some good moves. And, Aussie, the Kiwi. So there was some, some nice pips to be made. And we did have some good conversations in the LCMS trading floor chat as well. But from a perspective of what happened with the news, I'll just go now to the Forex economic calendar here, thanks to Forex Trading Asia. And quick review of what did happen last night. Just for the US, we had the GDP, it did come out a little weaker. 2.7 was expected. 2.5 was a number thrown out by Jin in regards to it's most likely not going to be close to 2.7. And we did see US dollar weakness. We saw a little bit of a beat with the quarter on quarter, but nothing significant that saw any strength really seen in the dollar. And we also saw the equity markets rally, even though we have everything going on globally. And that did not help the US dollar at all. And initial jobless claims, just, point of interest. Again, it's creeping down a little low, but again, it's something that's not as strong as, seeing this GDP miss as well. So for later today, a lot of news out today as well, guys. So if you're not in the LCMS Traders Club, you need some guidance. I'll share the link after this as well, because it's very easy to get off the correct path in trading, especially Forex, because if you aren't aware of what's going on, I mean, look at all this. It's just recipe for losing money. Now, we do have personal spending out for tonight at GMT plus 8 2030. We've also got the core PC price index. We have a lot of data coming out at 8:30 tonight. That's GMT plus 8 time to remind everyone. So be a little cautious there. We also have the GDP for Canada month on month. And that's going to be quite interesting, just given what the USDCAD has been doing and with the weakness in the dollar as well, even though the USDCAD is really at a low point, but just something to watch for maybe short-term possibilities there for a trade. But in regards to the US dollar, really a lot of this is not going to see a big move higher in the US dollar, but it is rallying a little bit tentatively, just to go back to the chart now. So I'd like to see what it does up, in the 93.50s again, because we have seen a little bit of support there. So let's just see what does happen. But, for now, it's still got a little bit of ways to go. It's going to be a point there just to see if it does break higher, and then we might see some trend continuation with what we've been seeing with the majors. But again, I like to refer to the equity markets as well. We do see some continuation, but again, Fridays can be a little tricky. So be careful. If you've had a good week, don't ruin it by, coming in and really not paying attention to everything that's going on. But we do have the CAD in focus with Jin today as well. And there's some good opportunities. You've just got to be patient as well. So, and we've got some crypto chatter coming up next as well after the CAD. But over to you now, Jin, talking the CAD.
Thanks, Scotty. So before I get into the USCAD and what's been happening recently with that, I think most of you are club members, just looking at the names there, but just to give you guys an update, a bit of a change coming around. As we're trying it now, but from Monday onwards, this currency call will be done live for club members only. So if you're not a club member, you won't get this live. You'll only get this at a delayed. It'll be released out to the public at a delayed time. So this 11 o'clock call will only be done for club members, to be done live for club members. Following on from that, everyone else will get it at a delayed time. So make sure, if you're not already a club member, I think most of you are. If you're not, make sure you're a club member. If not, you might miss out on opportunities. With that said, USDCAD lateral movement H1 after BOC talk. Yes, well, that's what I'm just about to tell you about. So looking at the, not dollar index, looking at the USD CAD, what happened, this is on H4 time frame, we did see that big drop. We saw that big drop towards that 122.73 level, bounce back up, was way outside Bollinger Band, bounced back up, and has been sitting in that horizontal fashion. That slight downward move was because of the dollar weakness last night, but then now it's sitting right across. What's happening with the Canadians is that looking at the news here, like the guys were just sharing with you, tonight we do have Canadian GDP month on month to be released, was a minus 0.1%, expected a 0.7. I think that we might see even close to a 1% GDP month on month here. So possibly expecting quite a good number for the Canadians. If that does come around, then we're going to see some strength towards the Canadian dollar. So with that, what you could anticipate is some more downward moves or some further downward move for the US CAD. Why am I expecting a good GDP number? Just to give you a quick recap on the Bank of Canada policy and forward guidance and how they ended QE. I've learned how to highlight my documents, my browser now, so thanks to Noah for telling me about this. So what happened with the Bank of Canada was overnight rate was being maintained, so they didn't change rates, but they ended QE, right? Why I'm expecting a good GDP number is because here they're talking about robust economic growth has resumed. Economy will grow by 5% this year before moderating into next year and the year after that. And progress made in the economic recovery. That's why they ended QE. So this is the reason why we saw that big drop in the US CAD, why we saw that big move towards that downside here. Looking at the US CAD on the H4 time frame, if I showed it to you on the H1, that was that move. That 1 hour move was a good 100 pips towards the downside, and then it bounced straight back up, sat right in the middle, sitting right across now. That was because of ending of QE. That was because of the positivity coming from the Bank of Canada, talking about good economic growth, talking about 5% for this year, and also looking this, considering CPI, but not getting too worried about it because of the factors leading to CPI or inflationary growth. So what happens here at this point, I'm expecting to see that with the GDP number to be released tonight, we might see further downside for the US CAD. I don't think, similar to what happened for middle this week and into last week, I don't think it will come all the way towards 122.73. I think it'll come close. What you could be looking for is selling opportunities below that low point, below the last low point. I think it'd be a bit too early to get into anything now. We've seen it come towards this point and bounce once already. So I would say look for it to go below that point, about a 12330. You would have a good 50 pip, 50 pip take profit. You will have a 25 pip, a very tight 25 pip stop loss. So you're looking at a 25 pip stop loss, 50 pip take profit level, a 1:2 risk reward ratio towards the downside, towards that 122.73 level. Given that we see the good GDP number for the Canadians, good GDP as in above that 0.7, possibly 0.9 or even 1%. So quite simple for the US CAD. But I think that this would be possibly a last move towards the downside. I don't think that this is going to break lower or have any significant further downside move. I think that we could see it come down, test this level, and then possibly bounce back up again. Similar to what happened last week, similar to what happened towards the middle of the week. Why I say that is also because if I zoom further out, you can see this is a very low point. Looking at it on a weekly time frame, if it does break, the next level will be 1.2055. That was in May, and then the last time it got there was in August. So if it does break, we're going to see a lot more volatility, but I think that we could see it bounce back up from this point. Reason why it could bounce back up is because also looking at a dollar index, possibly looking at it coming back up, testing that 93.56 level. It's had that big drop. We might see it test back, and maybe we might see some better news coming from the US pushing it a bit higher. So treat the US CAD on the H4 time frame now with a little bit of a caution. I'm not sure whether it'll break towards this 120.55, but I think that first trade will be interesting. And I think that next week, given that it's the first week of November, we're going to see a lot more news to be released. We have the interest rates from Australia, we have the Bank of England, we have the non-farm payrolls, we have a lot of news next week. I think that, don't rush a trade out today if you don't see anything clear and obvious. It is end of the week, it is end of the month. We're possibly going to see a lot of profit taking, a lot of volatility today. Leave it for next week. I think we're going to see a lot more trading opportunities, a lot more trade ideas to be had because of the news to be released. With that, I'll pass it back to you, Scott.
Thanks for that, Jen, as well. I did notice Shane asked a question about would that then halt the Aussie CAD move up in regards to that expected Canadian dollar strength?
You can tell him about Aussie CAD.
I will, Shane. And then Roy, you mentioned Jen's been looking at the US dollar index a little more lately, and we have been, yeah. So I think what I'll do, I'll bring up the Aussie CAD quickly. Let's go crypto first. You're right. I will do Aussie CAD at the end. I think I've got to just quickly touch upon Bitcoin. First of all, has been a little lackluster compared to Ethereum. And in regards to that, it's, I saw a theory that caught my attention was that the whales that participate in cryptocurrency, and what I refer to that is there's a lot less regulations in regards to acquiring crypto. So you can really move the markets quite aggressively if you're very wealthy. And, there are people that participate in that, venture. And what was happening was you saw a lot of these alternative coins. I won't use the S word to describe them, but, lesser known, less, I would say legitimate coins were pumped recently. And what is the theory is that they liquidated their Bitcoin when it was high, which is what professionals typically will do. They will, they will take what they've made when it looks a bit toppy in regards to if there's been a massive run up, you'll be seeing some profit taking. We saw price move below 60, but we have seen this wick come down. A lot of stops were very likely taken out there as well, which is what happens in crypto as well. And then we have seen a move high. So in regards to this, I'm not an active crypto trader though, so a disclaimer there. But if you are, someone that is just adding into this longer term, I would say that the thing is though, if you do add into it right now, we do have this upside of around 63, even 64,000. We're going to have a bit of a point of concern. And like with what Jin and I have mentioned with the US dollar index, and we have seen it, very weak, we are very likely going to see it rebound here. And that is going to somewhat dampen, this run. I mean, it's not necessarily strongly correlated, but we just want to pay attention to obviously next week as well. We've got quite a lot of news out for the US. It's going to be interesting to see what the Federal Reserve do when they talk about finally this, this tapering and when it's going to take place. And we could see quite a distinct risk-off move. So I really honestly would say that it just depends how aggressive you are. A short-term trade would be, long into this, but if not, you'd want to see it really break out and just in a couple of weeks to see really how markets react to what the Federal Reserve are doing with their management of inflation. Now, Ethereum has really performed pretty well and pretty much all-time highs nearly if we go to the monthly. Again, though, if you have, now would be the time where there would be people taking their profits. And that's really when FOMO comes in and the retail crowd are going to be all jumping all over this. So I would say that just see what it does. The weekends are quite active typically. And we've got, around a 4,000 on a pullback here. As you can see, that's really more appropriate for an entry, not really right here. But again, crypto is very dynamic. So from a perspective of if you are looking to trade, you might be taking a breakout. But if you're longer term, I would be waiting for, personally, I would be waiting for the pullback here. I wouldn't be just buying straight into this. And that's something that I would be paying attention to. So, okay, quickly, let's go to the Aussie Cad now. And I think in regards to Shane, I don't actually even know if I have, let's bring it up though. Let's find it. It's a good question. Now, the Aussie Cad has been performing a little, a little strange, to be frank, because we've seen the ASX 200 is actually having a significant, not a significant sell-off, but it's having a bit of a pullback. I'll just bring this up now just to provide some context as well, because I find that the Aussie dollar is holding up a little bit, as you can see. That's quite interesting how it's reacting right now. That does look quite interesting. Now let's bring up the Aussie Cad here. Aussie Cad. I'm not much for the black and white or the black and green. All right, and the LCMS trades, you do get access to this template as well. So Aussie Cad. All right, now BOC and what they've said, and we've got the GDP out tonight. I would say, firstly, daily chart, even if you've got no levels in here, which I don't, really it's going to be, this could be perfect. We could see it drift up higher and then selling opportunities when tonight comes. So Shane, I'm not sure if you are in the Traders Club, but you're only going to get, this. If you want more, definitely get into the Traders Club. I'll share the link now as well. But yeah, Aussie Cad, we could see it strengthen a little bit today, even though the ASX 200 is weaker. And then, although it is quite range bound as well, but that, around that 93.57, and I'll actually elaborate in the trading chat floor as well, which has been really dynamic in the correct category. But I would say that, the Canadian situation, the Aussie situation are quite similar. So it's when it's like that, it's quite a hard one to trade. So I would say hold off, see how it reacts to that level. And I think there might be maybe some more questions here. That's my pleasure as well. But yeah, I'll follow up with that. I'm waffling on here, guys. So, but Aussie Cad, no trade quite yet is the conclusion. And with crypto opportunities, and I'll elaborate in the Traders Club chat as well. But I think that was it. Let me share the link one more time here as well. Is everyone actually in the Traders Club? That's the question. I'm not sure if we have any. But just in case, I've posted it. Join the club, guys. All right. But that's it, guys. That's Friday. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Over 1% returned yesterday for Forex Briefcase. So I've sent that as well. I'm going to send that again. I saw a few people aren't actually there. So, and that's me out. Thanks for watching, guys, and hope to see everyone on Monday for Aussie and Kiwi. Have a great weekend, everyone.